Paradox in a glimpse, rear view fog. The fog does not lift with morning, it only rearranges itself, thickening where light should enter, turning every backward glance into an act of archaeology through corrupted data. I stand inside the state of me and summon the past not as memory, but as transmission, fractured, signal degraded, laced with the ozone scent of old electrical storms. What I was meant to be arrives in glimpses, a silhouette glimpsed through rain on glass already receding. The decades do not line up in orderly procession. They smear across the cracked rear view like neon trails left by a life that never learned to steer, only to glide on the currents the world provided. At 20, the first great reset arrived wearing the face of mania. It did not knock, it rewired. Thoughts accelerated until the ordinary speed of days felt like geological time. Connections blazed across neural constellations that normal consciousness could not sustain, then collapsed into white noise. Betrayal came first, clean, surgical, delivered by hands I had allowed inside the perimeter. In that moment, the face of the betrayer burned itself into the template. Years later, in the present, that same mouth shape, that same angle of shoulder, that same cadence of withheld truth would overlay itself onto the landlord standing in the doorway, onto the indifferent hiring manager on the other side of a video call, onto the barista who handed me coffee without meeting my eyes. The mind flagged each instance as foreign data. This character does not belong in this scene. This scene does not belong to that era. Reconciliation protocols, damaged by successive resets, simply errored. The overlay remained unprocessed, glitching at the edge of vision. For 25 years, I wandered that half-life, chaining existence with whatever adhesive the day supplied. I began traveling at 28, first to Salt Lake City, where I worked some years, then across the Midwest, wherever the road pulled around. 2013, I reached Myrtle Beach, found a good job and a nice truck, and adventured through the Carolinas, almost tasting roots. But right before COVID, the owner leased the restaurant to foreigners and cut me loose. I moved to Texas and lasted 34 days before the shutdowns took that job too. Then the long COVID road began, traveling while everything I owned disappeared, state after state, city after city. 3 years ago, I arrived in Ocean City, Maryland. Homelessness became the constant. I have tried to put roots down across the country. 48 states, every major city. Thousands of miles walked on foot, yet jobs, housing, and the crazy mind that resets without warning kept me moving. I have seen everything from overdoses in alley shadows to McLarens gliding past velvet ropes, the full spectrum of a country coming apart at the seams. Now I have a room in Maryland but no job, and the searches return the same silence. While scrolling job listings on the phone screen or standing at the counter with the landlord, the overlays intensify. The Myrtle Beach restaurant owner's posture appears on the current landlord's silhouette. The Texas COVID supervisor's voice leaks from a rejection email. The Ocean City arrival 3 years ago superimposes itself on the Maryland street outside the window. These are not hallucinations. They are failed contextual merges, error-specific avatars projected onto current coordinates, and the damaged reconciliation software cannot update the database. The difference remains unprocessed. The character fits the visual slot, but not the emotional or temporal logic of the present situation. Each instance adds another layer of static to the already fraying signal. Then the second cataclysm, COVID, did not merely remove the scaffolding. It revealed that the scaffolding had been illusion. Work evaporated into the same cloud that had promised connection. The fragile architecture of normal I had assembled from scavenged parts tore away in a single season. Stress cracked the containment. Mania returned, not as repetition but as escalation. A neural wildfire that burned away the last remaining insulation between thought and action. In its aftermath, I surfaced into a stranger's interior. The chemical tides receded and left behind a landscape I had never consented to inhabit. Feeling returned, but it arrived already translated into data. Compassion dangerous because it made visible the scale of human fragility against accelerating systems. Knowledge arrived alongside it, the conceptual weight of a country I had crossed on foot, the patterns of collapse I had witnessed in every large city, the quiet violence of wealth and overdose existing in the same frame. My brain, long screaming for release from its prior numbness, now frayed at the seams from trying to hold all of it at once. I had led myself into the void not by force, but by the momentum of movement itself. The road is the only place that still made sense when everything else had been stripped away. I became addicted to its forward motion even as it threatened to unmake what little remained. Now the body reasserts its ancient priority. Flesh and shelter speak in registers the digital cannot mute. Hunger arrives as low-frequency static beneath every high-concept thought. The room that still holds my few remaining anchors will demand its mechanical tithe. In 14 days, I possess no coin equal to that demand. The overlays continue while I search for work. A potential employer's tone carries the voice of every boss who ever let me go. The payment deadline notice carries the weight of every city I left behind. Each instance adds another layer of static to the already fraying signal. I return again to the rear view. The fog is not empty. It is thick with every version of me that fractured and reassembled under different names, now walking around wearing other people's bodies in scenes they were never written for. The 28-year-old arriving in Salt Lake City. The Myrtle Beach man with the truck, the Texas 34-day worker, the Ocean City arrival 3 years ago, the 1,000-mile walker who has seen overdoses of McLarens in a country in shambles. In the void ahead, there is no guarantee of ground. There is only the same generative darkness that has accompanied every previous reinvention. Except now the darkness is crowded with mismatched characters demanding to be integrated or released. Perhaps the next step is not escape but deliberate descent. Eyes open, to let the examination itself become the only steady thing, to treat every temporal overlay as raw data, every failed reconciliation as something that must be witnessed rather than erased. To hold the data of accumulated fracture alongside the living current of survival until whatever comes next can be faced without the mind splitting further under the weight of unprocessed difference. I write this because the act of rendering the fog and mismatched characters moving inside it into plain language is the only way I currently have to see any of it clearly. The room may still be taken. The searches may still return empty. The overlays may continue to arrive unbidden. But the transmission continues. In the rear view, the shapes are no clearer than before. They are only more honestly seen, even when the mind cannot yet process the difference between who they were and where they have been cast.